Do you ever get invited to play at jazz festivals or at heavy metal festivals? And when you play at these festivals, do you ever kind of offend the sensibilities of the audience? Like the jazz audience is expecting pure jazz, or the heavy metal audience is expecting pure heavy metal, and how do they respond to you guys playing what you play?
That's a good question. Um, because yeah, we played mainly at jazz festivals and not at metal festivals. Almost not at all. The only metal festival that we played at was the Euroblast, which is a tech metal festival with because they we there is this gent community, if you know gent music.
Right.
Yeah,
Like Meshuggah,
like
Frederick Thorndahl.
yeah, the kings of gent are Meshuggah, but then there are tons of bands that created this new metal genre. It's already not any that new anymore, but at least maybe the newest metal genre, the newest metal subgenre, and they see us at a part in playing, being in this scene, but we're not really a gent band. But some of the stuff we do is related to gent music, maybe, and that's the reason why we played at Euroblast. And actually, the name of the song Euroblast, it's called Euroblast because it was supposed to be the trailer music for the Euroblast festival, but they didn't take it.
Oh, I was wondering about that.
Yes, but I didn't want the work to be in vain. So I thought it was cool song, so I wanted to keep it and perform it. Okay, Blind Alley. Um,
Dead end. I don't think anyone says blind alley. They say dead
Dead
end.
end, dead end. Yeah.
Or I digress, or I've gone down the rabbit hole. Certain kinds of things. But
Yeah.
I've never heard blind alley.
Okay. Um, well, yeah. So, and all the other metal festivals have not even invited us because they they think that, I mean, they think we have saxophone, and that means for them that we play jazz, and they don't like jazz. So they don't book us because they hate jazz, and because we have saxophone, we play jazz. Yeah, so, and also they also hate saxophone. It's shitty because like it sounds like jazz. I don't like jazz, so they can't be good. They cannot be good. Um, um, and the metal festivals, sorry, the jazz festivals. Yeah, there were many jazz festivals and many great jazz festivals that we played, and this was exciting thing. We opened for Chick Corea, and we opened for Bill Frisell and for Kenny Garrett, and it was really in big opera houses or big stages, and it was an honor to do that, and it was fun because of the audience, because they were not expecting anything like this. This was not our audience. This was the Chick Corea audience, and for them it was, of course, it was a punch in the ears, and their eardrums went bleeding, and their eardrums bled out, I think. After that, no, they left the hall. I mean, 1/3 left the hall. Like Manowar says, wimps and posers leave the hall. No, they just didn't expect anything half as loud as that, and they just left because I think they're too faint at heart for that. And another third, they just suffered and stayed and thought, well, that's really ugly music. That's just noise, random free jazz noise. No, free jazz is what the metal guys say. Everyone, I mean, there are. If anybody says Panzerballett is that's like metal and free jazz, that's the biggest, the hugest bullshit I ever heard. Free jazz. It has nothing to do with free jazz. Absolutely nothing. But nothing is free. I mean, there are some improvisational parts, but free jazz. I mean, oh my God, makes me angry. Free jazz. Okay. This is like an angry dead end again. But where was I? I was at the jazz audience. They don't say it's free jazz because they know jazz. They just say it's random noise, and it's total noise and annoying noise. That's the other third of the audience, and the third is the good third, which stays and that digs it as it is supposed to. It has to dig Panzerballett, and they come again when they like it, and this is like a, how do you say, polarizing, polarisieren? Yeah, polarizing. It's this effect is always mostly at festivals when there is not our audience. If it's just a mainstream kind of audience, except the mainstream audience, there we have like, if a tenth of the people even considers staying there, then that's already great. So for the mainstream, you cannot. It makes no sense to play for a mainstream audience, but the jazz audience, let's say it's a third that's digging it. Yeah.
You said last time that you use music to channel aggression.
Exactly.
And you talk about punching in the face and bleeding ears and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Do you get any sense of I don't know, joy or anything when you see people leaving, or when you know that they're suffering, in your own word? Like, is that part of your intent? You know, do you get anything out of knowing that you're going to go punch them in the face and people don't like getting punched in the face?
Yes, I love the win-lose situation. I would not really say it. I mean, there are mixed feelings about that, because of course I want many people to come to the concert and like it. I mean, what musician would not like it to have an audience? But on the other hand, when looking into the faces of this audience, and it's kind of Genugtuung. What is Genugtuung? There is a word. Genugtuung. Satisfaction, yeah. Satisfaction. That's simple, yeah. There is some kind of satisfaction, because people are, I don't know why, but I have the urge to make a statement to people sitting there and listening to. I mean, many of those people who are attending these jazz festivals, they don't they just go there because it is kind of, you have to go there because people say it has to be you have, because not because they actually dig the music itself a lot, but because
they go with an expectation of hearing nice jazz or something close to it.
Maybe because just it's respectable to attend a jazz concert.
I see, yeah.
And they stay, and because everybody, there are so many, other people who say, well, this is good. They don't find it good because it is good, but because other people say it is good. There are many of that kind. I have the feeling, at least. And I can, I don't know. I don't know if it's maybe true, but I think I can see it when looking into people's faces. Interesting. Yes. How much time is it? When is the concert finished? But it is so amazing jazz music, and it's. I mean, when talking to some of those people, it's. I don't know. I have the feeling that many of them don't know. What the exact, I mean, where the quality comes from in this music. It's just because it's this event it would not be respectable not to attend this event, whatever. And those people are, of course, if you show them something that has maybe a similar quality of music. I don't want to compare myself to all those greats or whatever, because they are they are jazz greats. I just want to say if you have music with the same kind of content or density or whatever, and you just present it to them with a different sound that they're not used to, or they are used to from other genres of music they don't like, it scares them off, and it proves that they're not actually maybe they're not so much into the content, but it just has to sound nice, and then they think it's nice. If you play the same thing with a not so nice sound, then it scares them off.
I assume you would. You started our first part of the interview with. I consider Panzerballett to be extreme music.
Yes.
It's music about extremeness and complexity.
Yes.
And those are, and when you're blending two very separate genres, I would imagine that you knew there would be a cost to doing those things, like a risk in doing that.
Yes.
You pursued it anyway, because you said, I wouldn't know what to do otherwise. I have no other choices.
Exactly. The risk is, I didn't, at no point of time I considered it as taking any risk. There is no risk in doing what you just do. You don't have to take any risk. The only risk you take is of doing, if you don't do anything else, maybe. Then it's a risk.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But all of us, we do something else as well. But I mean, investing a lot of time. I see it. Risk is the wrong word. Because it's just doing it, and maybe it's more of hoping that more and more people recognize it and dig it. But taking a risk would be. It's not what ever felt like taking a risk.
Mm.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. But
It is taking a risk, but it doesn't feel like it. Because
right,
you
yeah,
just
you're
do.
being true to yourself, and
Yeah,
you only know who you are. And when you're expressing yourself creatively, what's the risk? You're not writing music to please others. You're writing it to please yourself.
yeah,
Uh,
a very selfish view, of course. Yeah, very selfish. The extremeness is also in the selfishness, of course. Yes.
uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what makes it great, though. I mean, you're never going to cater. There is no extreme audience. It's not like there's some sort of group that's just waiting for extreme complex blending of heavy metal and jazz. You are kind of blazing a trail, and you're finding an audience that probably never knew that music could exist. And that's why we're talking, because your music is so innovative and creative.
Thank you.
I'd like to know about your creative process. Could you describe how you start with a song, whether it starts with a complex idea, or if you kind of manufacture that complexity over time, like as you investigate where you might want to go with the idea, or does it just start out with I hear some skunk funk based on quintuplets in my head, and I need to write this out. How does an idea start for you, and how does it become complex?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. There are two basic approaches. The one is the doing the original, and the other one is doing the cover. And well, when doing the original, this is something that I always, I mean, even back in the times when I played in a metal band and I made up some metal riffs. I mean, it's a similar creative process. It just gets the material gets more complex, and your ears get used to more and more complex stuff. And basically, it's you have an idea when in the shower or whatever, or walking on the street, and it's never, I cannot force something. It's just depends on my mood, and sometimes there is a creative window that opens, and oh, there is an idea, and then I record it. Usually I don't have time at that time to go on with it, but so I have to record it, and later on I mean record on my phone something like a little passage, and then when there is the time has come to, or there is some time to dig into it, or to sink my teeth into composing, then I get back to my phone and have my ideas, and try to combine them, and yeah, some days are sometimes I'm inspired, sometimes not. So there are just not many days in a year that I have this. You need to have time to do this. So sometimes it takes me a day or something to collect all the ideas, or to go on from one idea to finish a song. Sometimes it takes me like maybe a couple of days, and it's not even finished, and I have to come back to it later. Sometimes it takes even over more than a year, or even more. Like one of the songs, like on the last album, there is the song Smoochy Borg Funk that actually was some of the basic idea of it. I already wanted to use it for Thank Goodness, which was like over 3 years ago. But then something one part was missing, and I didn't know how to finish, how to what other part. I just had one part, and it was not finished yet. There was missing idea. So I came back to it years later, and then I finished it. So, or the Mustafari song, Mustafari Likes the Carnival from Thank Goodness. This was a quite long process to, and when the song was finished, then there was still, the intro was not there, and the intro I also wrote again 1 year later or half a year later, when I had lots of time. And usually every idea that comes and fits to something, some other idea that fits together, every idea, well, is making the bigger the pool that you can draw from, because it may not be random stuff. It has it has to fit together, and it's always kind of a pool to draw from that. I try to keep all ideas in one pool, and not make it random, but just throw something inside of the pool. And there are not too many elements inside of this pool. It's just as soon as I see something fits together, I see, well, that's good for my pool. I add it. That seems something good for the pool, this pool that I have when I do a cover already gives me a pool of ideas to draw from. So like the Some Skunk Funk thing there was already a finished structure, and I just rearranged it, and I tried to find a way to make the same melody inside of this quintuplet grid. And this was kind of just editing something, and the original is always, it's hard to start from scratch. From scratch is always hard. You need this moment of inspiration that I keep on the phone, because the moment of inspiration is you never can tell when it comes. So, and then there is this later moment of assembling the inspired moments together, something like this. And this and this again is something, this assembling is inspiring itself in itself. So it from there, it takes maybe only 1 or 2 days to finish a whole composition. But I mean, the whole process, I cannot even say or generalize how long it takes to write one song. There are many factors. You need inspiration, you need the right parts, and you need luck. And also, what I use for composing is the computer. This is probably the most important tool. I was speaking of the pool of ideas, and I'm using the computer to treat those ideas, or to make all these rhythmic experiments. The computer is extremely helpful, because all the polyrhythmic stuff and all these structures of chains of bits of riffs or whatever, I put them together. Putting them together on paper would take like 10 times longer, and then I would not even I don't hear it in my head actually. The computer plays it to me. Then I can just put them together in the computer, and the computer plays it to me, and I can hear it. I would not hear it when just having the sheet, and because first I would have to practice it, and then I would hear it, and then maybe I would say, no, that's completely bullshit, I have to try something else. And the computer helps me just to instantly hear it and edit it. So this is very important to me, like creating this polyrhythmic stuff.
Do your ideas start with melodies or riffs or polyrhythm, just kind of like technical ideas?
Yeah.
Where are you starting from?
Starting is basically it's basically a bass and guitar riff, something like this. This is the starting point for rhythmic experiments. Or what to do in this Mana Mana. We do 5 against 7. This was also something. This was from a time when, for instance, I was experimenting with septuplets, and at the same time, what happens if I group the septuplets in 5? And then I didn't feel it at that time, so I had to make my computer play it. And also, the whole thing has to have a harmonic context, which also I need the computer basically because on top of the rhythmic structure you have a harmonic structure, and this is like a third layer often. The harmonics or the changes are also, they have their own rhythms. Usually the changes go bar by bar. Sometimes I cannot generalize it, but it's often like that the harmonic context is a third rhythmic layer also, and I wouldn't be able to hear that in my head. I can just hear what the computer plays to me and edit this. But the layers itself, sometimes like harmonic stuff is some chords that I sometimes take the guitar, and it's the same like finding a riff, finding a chord on the guitar, or a harmonic, a nice voicing, whatever. I'm experimenting with several like melodic minor and harmonic minor voicings, exploiting the fretboard. This is what I do when I practice, and sometimes I come across a cool voicing, or it's the same thing like coming across a nice riff or whatever. This is again something, when I find something that appeals to my ear, I take it out and drop it into my pool, whatever, or I drop it into one of the pools that I use for the songs.
So before the computer, it sounds like the computer kind of opened up new compositional possibilities.
Exactly.
Were you composing before you had a computer? And what was your music anything like what it is now?
Yes, I mean, it couldn't be what it is now without the computer, I would say, because the computer makes it makes the whole process so much faster that I would get so exhausted or distracted probably on the way to finding or doing the math of all the of the basic idea. I would be distracted on the way probably, and I would find other ideas probably when writing something down. So it's a lot of, I mean, when a creative window is open, usually I get distracted by my own ideas all the time, and the computer just doesn't distract me how do you say? The computer is not distracted, so he just does. I have one whatever 23/16 idea, and I just put it together times 5, and writing it down would take me too long. When writing it down, I would get a different idea on the way. So the computer just does it. Okay, 5 times 23. Computer plays it to me, and I say, "Oh, that sounds nice," but I have to make some adjustments in the riff to make it sound more musical, because it's, of course, the music is not. I mean, I don't want it to sound mathematical or constructed. It has to sound musical to me, kind of. I don't want it. Of course, I want it to sound musical. So I also want it to be construction of doom, and to be something that really that has a high level of sophistication, and this high level of sophistication, of course, of unusual sophistication. And the thing is, the unusual comes from the fact using a computer to it, because sometimes you get, by putting together, you get ideas that you wouldn't get if you wouldn't do it that way. And this inspires me again often. So sometimes I make a mistake and I do some copy and paste stuff, and I paste it in the wrong place of the grid. So the computer plays it to me like 1/16th note later, and sometimes this displaced riff sounds even nicer than the not displaced than it was before. So, and then I go on from that, and this opens maybe a new window for other things. It's a mixture of human and computer artwork, whatever. How can you say it? It's a computer-aided composition, computer-aided creativeness. Does it make sense?
Oh yeah, I think that's wonderful. Were you exploring with polyrhythms before the computer, just to a lower degree of complexity?
Yes. Yes. No. Actually, no. No, I didn't, because I already, well, what I was experimenting with was with metric modulation, because at that time I didn't know I didn't have a sequencer, and I didn't know how to change. Like it was like a bigger deal to make tempo changes. So this was again an obstacle, like being it a big deal to make tempo changes on the computer was kind of again a distraction in the creative process. This was kind of killing creativity, this obstacle. So I had to find a different way of this is something where I could not use the computer for this metric modulation. But again, yeah. So and metric modulation was some of the very first rhythmic sophisticated tools that I use, and this was before the computer, probably. But something, some other stuff like the interlocking of grooves, like Zehrfunk, if you know Zehrfunk. This principle is interesting. You have one riff, and you disperse it onto two different instruments, and this is one of the things that I do. Dispersion of like 16th notes. You have something rhythmic, and you give one part to the one guitar, and the other part to the other guitar. You have a stereo effect, and every part for itself sounds nice and grooving, but is completely displaced to the other and adds together something beautiful, but is beautiful for itself also. And this is one of the things that the computer is, of course, great for. You just select some notes, some single notes, then you make cut and paste again in a separate part and listen to it, and you can instantly say, okay, that's grooving, that sounds great. Or no, this note I have to give the other instrument, and instead of that I use the third note from the other instrument for the first instrument. So trying out things and instantly listening to them and instantly deciding whether they are good or not, and experimenting with it, and getting faster and faster in finding it and finding ways to compose. It's I got better over the years in what I could do, to what I could try, all the options you have to make it sound different, or what I could do, what measures I have to take to make a riff or whatever that the computer plays me and does not yet sound great. What can I do to make it sound great? These options I get more and more over the years. I know what to do to make it sound better often, or what I can try out to make it sound better.
It's very interesting, the contrast. Excuse me. The contrast between, you're talking about the freshness of improvisation and the, ability to, in the moment, be musical. But on the other hand, some of your music is so technical and detailed and absolutely like precisely constructed.
Yes.
It's very interesting how you've blended those two things, because they're really they're it's another set of opposites. And I know jazz is kind of like that, but you're going to a different level. You're going to such a level of complexity that no one could just pick up a chart and go, "Oh yeah, let's sight read this track," So
exactly.
how do you feel about that contrast where you're it's probably 2 a.m. you're moving 23/16, you're moving certain notes from one instrument to another, and you're doing this cool interplay trade-off thing, but you still want to have that freshness. So can you talk a little about that?
Yes, the contrast has to be there because the construction is so, how do you say, intricate? No.
Yeah.
Because it is, the more I need this other improvisational part in the music, because the more I'm craving also for something. I mean, the more constructed, the more complex the construction is, the more I have to get used to it, the more I have to practice it, the more time I have to use on learning it and spending time with the construction. The more I crave for the improvisational part, of course, and also the contrast. Contrast is something that's probably inside of myself. I want to. It's about something like wanting the grass is being green on the other side, always wanting the other thing. I'm inside of. Oh shit! Now we have another minute, I think so.
So we're gonna need a part 4, huh?
Yes. Oh shit! Yes. But now it's very interesting.